Hi, Sahil. Thank you so much for joining in.
Ankita, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure being with you and being associated with human capital. Thank you so much.
So, Sahil, let me just start off by asking a little personal question. So, for almost all of us, the virus has brought in radical lifestyle change, right? Like many of us have been doing things that we hadn't even considered or thought possible before. So, what has COVID-19 changed the most for you?
So I think, Ankita, three things that really stand out if I sit back and reflect over the last 100 plus days. And the three things are essentially 3 hours, 3 R's, the way I put it, right? The first R is restrain. I think initially it all looked very fancy. It all looked a lot of fun. That I don't have to go to office. All of us can sit in the comfort of our home and we can do work. But as weeks pass by, we realize that boundaries are just getting so blurred. I would spend a lot more time on my laptop as compared to shutting down my laptop when I had to leave and come back home. And this whole space of work, which is geography in the way we look at it, actually, it just blurred, right? And therefore, the whole concept of restraint to really say that how over the passage of time, with this whole blurring, which led to a lot of emotions getting built up, a lot of feelings, a lot of sentiments, which people just couldn't really process. And therefore, you would end up seeing that some people would react very differently, would get agitated, would get upset, would behave irrationally as well, right? And these could be friends, these could be other people who you talk to who just didn't have an outlet. Because as human beings, it's extremely important for us to vent, to share, to have an outlet. Now, if that gets curtailed to just the people who you have at your house, and people are not used to spending so much of time with family members, right? Because everyone just used to go out, work, come back. So I think the ability to exercise restraint, to be in touch with your emotions and feelings, and not to just pass it on to people if it's unwarranted. The second R that I want to talk about that I really picked up during the last 100 days and really consciously improvised on is resilience. We all know tough times don't last, but tough people do. It's a cliche saying, but this really came to life with no household help being around, with you being with your spouse, family members, parents, all under one roof, sharing responsibilities of the house and the chores, and more importantly, ensuring that work continues. So how do you really go through this unprecedented time with great amount of resilience? Because ultimately, no one knows how long this is going to last. So we are in it together, but each one is finding different coping mechanisms to deal with it. And the third is response. I think, as leaders, it's extremely important for us to lead the way in such difficult times. And therefore, a lot of people look up to us for answers. And not having a response is not a response. Many a times in the pre-COVID era, the strategy was to say, okay, if you don't respond with the passage of time, the query dies out, the concern dies out. But in these times, people really look up to us for answers. And I think timely response is very important. So if I have to summarize your question, 3 R's that really stand out for me: restrain, resilience, and response. And we're learning through this and trying to cope up.